My name's Ryan Mitchell. I'm 34, and I'm a civil engineer here in Austin, Texas. I've been in the business for 12 years, always the type of guy who thinks twice before speaking once. I'm observant by nature, analytical. That mindset has always served me well, both professionally and personally. I met Emily Thompson at a mutual friend's birthday party 5 years ago. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a tech company and had that smile that makes you forget your own name. She was smart, ambitious, talked about her career plans with a passion I admired. In the first few months, she was perfect, maybe too perfect. The relationship evolved naturally. Emily moved into my house after 8 months together. The property was an investment I made 2 years before I met her. A 3-bedroom residence in an appreciating neighborhood, financed with my own money. I never thought twice about including her name on the deed. It was my house, bought with my sweat, but our home built with love. We got engaged last December. I proposed to her at Zilker Park during the Festival of Lights. I bought a 2-carat ring that cost 4 months of my salary. Emily cried, said yes, posted on social media before we even called our parents. The wedding date was set for September of this year. Everything planned, everything perfect. But sometimes the most solid things can have invisible cracks. And those cracks only show when the pressure becomes unbearable. Emily was always the type of person who needs constant validation. At first, I found it charming. She liked attention, being the center of conversations, receiving compliments. I was more reserved, so we complimented each other well. She shined, I admired. It worked. 3 months before what I'm about to tell you, I started noticing subtle changes. Emily spent more time on her phone, always with the screen turned down. She started going out more frequently with her work friends, coming home late with vague stories about where they'd been. When I asked for details, she'd deflect or change the subject. I'm observant by nature. When someone starts acting differently, I notice. Emily's inconsistencies began to pile up. She'd say she was having dinner with Sarah, but Sarah posted photos at home with her husband. She'd talk about happy hour at the office on Fridays, but come home smelling of men's cologne that wasn't mine. Small details that in isolation could be coincidence. Together they formed a clear pattern. I never confronted her directly. Maybe I should have, but my nature is to observe first, act later. That's how I avoid hasty decisions. Saturday arrived like any other. It was March 15th. I remember the date perfectly because I was reviewing some documents in my home office when Emily knocked on the door. She had that expression I recognized immediately. The same look she had when she needed to tell me something she knew I wouldn't want to hear. "Ryan, we need to talk." I closed my laptop. "Sure, what's up?" Emily sat in the armchair across from my desk, avoiding eye contact. I need some time to think." The words hung in the air. Time to think about what? About us, about my feelings, about who I am. 5 years of a relationship and an engagement. isn't something you question on a Saturday afternoon. Do you want to break up? I asked directly. No. The answer came too quickly, too desperately. It's not that, just a break for me to understand what I really want. Right then I knew. The same intuition that made me question things that didn't make sense screamed that there was omitted information in this conversation. But I collected the available data and made a note of the unknown variables. For how long? I asked, keeping my voice calm. I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month. And during this break, do you plan to? Emily finally looked me in the eye. Be alone. Reflect. A lie. A poorly constructed lie. But I agreed. Not because I believed it, but because I was already calculating my next move. That night, Emily packed her bags and went to a friend's apartment. She said she'd call me in a few days. I nodded, helped her carry her bags to her car, gave her a goodbye kiss on the forehead, and went back into my empty house. I sat on the living room couch, in the same spot where we'd watched Netflix for the past 1,000 nights, and smiled for the first time in months. Not out of happiness, but out of clarity. Like when you finally pinpoint the problem and know exactly how to solve it. Emily wanted a break to think. Great. I was going to use that time to think too, and plan, and prepare for the inevitable discovery that my intuition was right. Because one thing I've learned in life is that when something shows signs of instability, you have two options. Try to fix it or move on to something new. And some problems simply aren't worth the investment of repair. The first 3 days after Emily left home were strange. The broken routine, the silence where there used to be conversations about the workday, the empty space in the bed. But there was something liberating in that silence too. As if I could finally think without background noise. On Wednesday, I started my own investigation. I'm not the type of guy who obsessively stalks social media, but Emily had left some things behind, including the iPad we used to watch Netflix, still logged into her accounts. Curiosity or intuition, I don't know. I opened Instagram. The first few photos were normal. Selfies with friends, work stories, a few photos of us that she hadn't archived. But as I scrolled back, I found something interesting. 3 weeks before our conversation, there was a photo at a downtown coffee shop I didn't recognize. Emily was smiling, but the photo was cropped in a strange way, as if someone had been removed from the image. I opened her Facebook. Same thing, but there the privacy settings were different. I saw comments from people I didn't know, likes on male profiles posts. One name appeared frequently, Marcus Chen. Marcus Chen, the ex-boyfriend she had mentioned a few times at the beginning of our relationship. The guy who had broken her heart 3 years before she met me. According to Emily, he had cheated on her with a co-worker and disappeared from her life overnight. The great pain, the relationship that made her learn to trust again. Apparently, Marcus had recently moved back to Austin. He works at an app development startup. Successful from what the photos showed. Single. and from the data I managed to gather, they had started interacting on social media about a month before Emily asked for the break. On Friday, I got the confirmation I needed. James, my best friend since college, called me around 8 p.m. "Ryan, man, I don't know if I should tell you this, but..." "Go ahead." "I saw Emily today on Rainy Street. She was with an Asian guy, short hair, blue dress shirt. They looked pretty intimate." Rainy Street, Austin's most romantic bar district. Not a place you go alone to reflect on your feelings. "Did you get any pictures?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Man, I thought it was kinda stalkerish, but yeah. "Sending it to you now." The photo arrived 2 minutes later. Emily laughing, her hand on the arm of a man who was clearly Marcus Chen. Their body language left no doubt about the nature of the encounter. That wasn't a casual conversation between exes. I saved the photo and started to plan, protecting my assets and planning my next move. First thing, documentation. I saved all the evidence. Screenshots from social media, James's photo, printouts of conversations where Emily talked about needing space. In my profession, documentation is everything. A project without proper documentation has no legal or practical value. Second thing, asset protection. The house was entirely in my name, bought 2 years before I met Emily. Without an official marriage, she had no rights to the property. But it didn't hurt to double-check. I called my lawyer, Mark Peterson, the following Monday. "Ryan, under Texas law, she has no right to the house," Mark confirmed. "You're not married. There's no recognized common law marriage, and the property was acquired before the relationship. You're safe." Third thing, asset appraisal. Emily and I had bought a lot of things together over 5 years. Furniture, appliances, even art to decorate the house. But I had kept all the receipts and proof of payment. A professional habit that became a personal salvation. I discovered that, of everything we considered ours, I had paid for about 80%. Emily contributed more with ideas and aesthetic choices than with money itself. Not because she was a gold digger, but because I earned significantly more and never insisted on splitting things 50-50. Meanwhile, Emily maintained her promised silence. No calls, no messages, just a dry text on Monday. "How are you? Hope you're well. Still thinking about everything." Kisses. Kisses. 5 years of a relationship and engagement, and she summed up our situation with kisses. I replied in an equally neutral way. "I'm good. Taking my time too. Talk when you feel ready." But inside I was already ready. Ready to find out the extent of the lie, ready to protect my interests, and most importantly, ready for a very different conversation than the one Emily imagined we'd have when she came back. On Wednesday of the second week, I received more unsolicited information. Sarah, one of Emily's friends whom I had always respected, sent me a private message on Instagram. "Ryan, I can't keep quiet anymore. Emily isn't at my apartment like she told you. She's staying at a downtown hotel with him. With him, Marcus Chen. The break to reflect alone was actually a premature honeymoon with her ex-boyfriend. Emily wasn't questioning our relationship. She was testing if the grass was really greener, and using our house as a plan B in case the test failed. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. Executing my own plan. I called David Rodriguez, a real estate agent who had helped me buy the house 3 years ago. David, I need to sell my property. Fast. Any problem, Ryan? Change of plans. How long would it take to put it on the market? With the current Austin market, a house like yours. 2 weeks to find a serious buyer, plus another 3 to close the deal. Perfect. Let's do it. Ryan, can I ask why the rush? I looked around the living room, at the paintings Emily had chosen, at the couch where we watched movies, at the dining table where we planned the wedding. Because sometimes you discover that what you considered home was just a house, and houses can be sold. David chuckled on the other end of the line. Got it, I'll get the paperwork ready. The for sale sign goes up tomorrow. I hung up the phone and smiled. Emily wanted time to think. Perfect. I was going to use that time too. But unlike her, my thoughts had a very clear goal. To restart my life without someone who didn't value what she had with me. The for sale sign went up Thursday morning. Discreet, professional, announcing the house was on the market for $485,000. A fair price for a quick sale, according to David. $15,000 below market value, but still a considerable profit on what I paid 3 years ago. The first interested party showed up on Saturday. A young couple. He a serviceman from Bergstrom Air Force Base, she a nurse. They looked at every room with the same fondness Emily and I had when we bought our first furniture. The irony wasn't lost on me. It's a beautiful house, the wife said. Are you moving to something bigger? Change of plans in life, I simply replied. They made an offer on Sunday. $475,000, cash payment through pre-approved financing. David called me euphoric. Ryan, will close in 2 weeks. I rarely see deals go so smoothly. Meanwhile, Emily kept to her schedule. A message every 3 days, always vague. Hi, how are you? Still sorting out my thoughts. Or, hope you're doing well. Need a few more days. I replied in an equally neutral way. But inside I was organizing every detail of my new life. First, I separated all belongings. 5 years of a relationship generate a lot of shared things. I used a simple system. Everything I could prove I paid for stayed with me. Everything she bought I put in boxes. Everything we bought together I appraised by value and practical utility. The 65-inch TV in the living room. I bought it myself on Black Friday 2022. Receipt saved. The leather couch. An anniversary gift I gave her, but she chose it for our house. Ambiguous situation, but it stayed with me because it was in my name on the receipt. The dishes, kitchen utensils, the washing machine. Everything had documentation. I didn't know my obsession with keeping papers would become so useful. I called a moving company and a donation company, scheduled for the Friday before key handover, which would be the following Monday. Military schedule. Precise, efficient, no room for improvisation. The confrontation. In the second week, I received an unexpected visitor, Marcus Chen. He showed up at my door on a Thursday afternoon, driving a black Tesla Model S. Well-dressed, confident, with that air of someone who knew they were in a comfortable position, or at least thought they knew. "You must be Ryan," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Marcus, Emily's friend." Friend. I chuckled internally. "I know who you are. Can I come in? I'd like to talk about the situation." I let him in. Professional curiosity. I want to see how the guy who stole my fiancée justifies his own existence. Marcus sat on the couch, looked around with approval. "Nice house. Emily always talked about how you guys built a beautiful home together." "We did," I agreed. "I paid. She decorated." He laughed nervously. "Look, Ryan, I know the situation is complicated, but I want you to know it wasn't planned. I came back to Austin. We met by chance and you guys decided that 5 years of her relationship were worth less than a few nights at the Driscoll Hotel." Marcus stopped talking. "How do you know where—" "Marcus, I'll give you some free advice. When you're lying about not planning anything, avoid using your credit card in places that can be easily tracked." In truth, I didn't know which hotel they were in. I just guessed the most expensive one in Austin. But his expression confirmed everything. "Listen," he continued, trying to regain control of the conversation. "Emily's confused. She doesn't want to hurt you, but she also can't deny what she feels for me. Maybe it's better for everyone if you two talk and reach an amicable agreement." "Amicable agreement," I repeated. "Like me giving up on a 5-year relationship so you two can be together guilt-free?" "Something like that." I stood up and walked to the window. The for sale sign was clearly visible outside. "Marcus, can I ask you a question? Does Emily know you came here?" "No. I thought it would be better man to man, you know." "I get it. And did she tell you she's staying at the hotel with you? Or did she say she's at a friend's house reflecting on life?" Marcus was silent for a few seconds, enough time for me to have my answer. "Ryan, look." "No need to explain," I interrupted. "I already understand the dynamic. Emily didn't tell you she lied to me about where she was. You didn't tell her you came here. You two are building a relationship based on lies and omissions. Interesting foundation for a romance." Marcus stood up, clearly uncomfortable. "I just wanted to avoid unnecessary drama." "Drama?" I walked to the door and opened it. "Marcus, there won't be any drama. You can relax." He walked through the door but turned before leaving. "Emily really cares about you, Ryan. She just is following her heart." "Of course she is," I agreed. And when Emily's heart changes its mind again, like it did 5 years ago when she met me, and like it did now when you came back, I'm sure you'll understand perfectly. Marcus got into the Tesla without replying. I closed the door and went back to the living room, laughing to myself for the first time in weeks. The next day, Emily sent me a message. "Hi, love. I think I'm ready to talk. Can it be this weekend? Love." After 2 weeks at a hotel with her ex, she still called me love. I replied, "Sure. Sunday at 3 p.m. at our house." Our house. Technically, it still was for another 48 hours. I hung up the phone and looked around the empty rooms. The stacked boxes, the furniture covered with sheets, the walls with marks from the paintings that were already put away. Emily wanted a conversation. She'd get an unforgettable one. Sunday, 2:30 p.m. I was sitting in the empty living room when I heard her car pull into the driveway. 30 minutes before the scheduled time. Typical of Emily when she was nervous. I looked out the window and saw she was alone, checking her makeup in the rearview mirror. Her keys still worked, so I didn't need to open the door. I heard her familiar footsteps in the entryway, then silence. She was probably puzzled by the echoes in a house that should have been furnished. "Ryan?" Her voice echoed down the hall. "In the living room," I replied. Emily appeared at the doorway and stopped abruptly. The living room was completely empty, except for 2 beach chairs I borrowed from the neighbor. No furniture, no paintings, nothing to indicate that this place had once been a home. What happened here?" she asked, looking around in disbelief. "Have a seat." I gestured to one of the chairs. "Let's talk." Emily slowly sat down, still processing the scene. She looked beautiful, as always. Hair down, that blue blouse I'd bought her last Christmas, ironic. "Ryan, where are our things?" "Oh, that." I pulled an envelope from my jacket. "Your things are all here." I handed it to her. A key to a self-storage unit on Riverside Drive. I paid 6 months in advance. Everything that was demonstrably yours is in there. Emily opened the envelope, found the key and a detailed 3-page inventory. "But what about the rest? Our furniture, our TV, our..." "Emily, can I ask you a question? During these 2.5 weeks of reflection, where exactly were you staying?" She hesitated. At Sarah's house." "I told you that." "Lie number 1, I said calmly. "Sarah messaged me last week saying you weren't there. Try number 2. Her face turned red. "Ryan, let me help you out. Driscoll Hotel, Executive Suite, registered under Marcus Chen's name. A room bill of around $350 a night, plus room service and spa charges. Want me to continue?" Emily was silent for almost a minute. Then, in a small voice, "How did you find out?" "Emily, you asked for a break to understand your feelings, but in reality you wanted to test if you still felt something for your ex, using our house as a plan B while you experimented with a luxury life with him." Tears started rolling down her face. "It wasn't like that. I really was confused. Confused enough not to be able to stay alone even for one night. Confused enough to lie about where you were. Confused enough to let Marcus come here last Thursday to try to negotiate our relationship with me. Her eyes widened. He did what? Oh, you didn't know. Your new boyfriend came here to make a gentleman's proposal. He suggested I amicably let you go to avoid drama. Romantic, don't you think? Emily buried her face in her hands. Ryan, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I can explain everything. Can you explain why you lied about where you were? Can you explain why you didn't have the decency to break up with me before throwing yourself into your ex's arms? I was scared. Can you explain why Marcus knew details about our house that only someone very intimate would know? Total silence. Emily, I understand everything now. You two reconnected probably longer ago than I imagine. You decided you wanted to test if the chemistry was still there. But instead of being honest with me, you preferred to invent this break story to protect yourself in case it went wrong. She finally lifted her head. And what if I say I realized I made a mistake? That I want to come back? That you're who I truly love? I laughed. For the first time in weeks, I truly laughed. Emily, look around you. What do you see? An empty house. Exactly. You know why it's empty? Because I sold it. We closed the deal last Friday. The keys were handed over this morning. Her jaw dropped. You sold our house. Correct. My house, which I bought with my money 2 years before I met you. And guess what? With the profit from the sale, I've already put down a deposit on a property in Denver. I'm moving next week. Emily stood up abruptly. Ryan, you can't do this. We can talk. We can fix this. Fix this? I stood up too. Emily, you had 5 years to be sure about us. You had a year of engagement to be sure about the marriage. But it only took you 2 weeks with your ex to be sure you wanted to throw everything away. But I came back. I'm here. You came back because Marcus didn't offer what you expected. You came back because you realized a hotel fling doesn't replace real stability. You came back because your plan B didn't work. Her tears turned into sobs. Please, it can't end like this. I walked to her and for the last time wiped a tear from Emily's face. It can. And you know why? Because you taught me a valuable lesson. What lesson? That when someone asks for time to think about you, they've actually already decided. They're just looking for a more comfortable exit. I picked up my jacket and walked towards the door. You have an hour to grab anything you might have forgotten. After that, leave the keys in the mailbox. The new owners move in tomorrow. Ryan, wait. I stopped at the door but didn't turn around. Emily, you wanted freedom to explore your feelings. You got it. Now I also have the freedom to explore a life without someone who isn't sure if they want me. I left the house and got into my car. In the rearview mirror, I saw Emily at the door crying. I felt a pang of sadness, but no regret. Life after 3 months later, I'm in Denver with my own consulting business growing faster than I imagined. I've met interesting people. I'm rediscovering who I am without having to guess someone else's feelings. Emily sent me a few emails. The first was desperate, asking for a second chance. The second, angry, calling me insensitive and cruel. The third, months later, simply saying she understood and wishing me happiness. I heard from mutual friends that she and Marcus broke up 6 weeks after my move. Apparently, when the novelty wore off and reality hit, they discovered they didn't have as much in common as they imagined. Who knew? The most important lesson I learned? Sometimes the best response to someone who isn't sure if they want you is to show them that you're perfectly sure you deserve someone who is. If this story touched you in any way, if you know someone who went through a similar betrayal, or if you simply believe that justice always prevails, please like this video. Share it with people who need to hear that self-respect is non-negotiable. Subscribe to the channel for more real stories of overcoming adversity and righteous payback. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever been in a situation where you had to use your intelligence to protect yourself from people close to you? Your stories can inspire others who are going through difficult times. Until next time, and remember, never underestimate the power of a prepared mind.